Hi everyone. This video walks through completing Packet Tracer Assignment 5.3.3.5, Configuring Layer 3 Switches in Chapter 5. Now, by this point, you've already completed the other two lab assignments, which had you view some frames, which remember operate at layer 2, that Ethernet layer between layer 1 and 2. Ethernet protocol kind of overlaps the physical layer as well as the data link layer, or if you're referring to the TCP/IP model, the network access layer, because remember both of those are combined into one. So at this point, we kind of see how how frames, that's what they're called when they're operating at that point, move across the network, update the information. And in this scenario, we're actually going to look at what a layer 3 switch is. Now at layer 2, we kind of say that switching happens. Switches, which are here, the S2 device and the S1 device, they are usually concerned with your MAC addresses of your end devices. They usually offer a lot of end device connections. So you'll see here you've got a lot of PCs connected to this one switch up here. Routers really don't have a lot of those end device ports, and routers are usually concerned with IP addressing, which we'll get to later in the semester. But at layer 2 is where we say switching happens. So that's what we're kind of looking at. Now, these are special switches. They are much more expensive, but they're called layer 3 switches. So they can actually act like a router and a switch all in one. So we're going to look at how many devices we have here currently. We've got a edge router up here. We've got that connected to switch 2, and then that connected to R1. Then R1 is connected to switch 1 down here, and we've got 4 PCs connected to it. Now again, we're going to replace some of these devices to kind of see a before and after picture of what a layer 3 switch would allow you to do. Just keep in mind though, layer 3 switches are a little bit more expensive than your normal switches. So here it says to, in part 1, click on R1 and then the CLI tab. Use the available commands to gather interface addressing information. So in R1 here, okay, click on the CLI tab. And to get that information, all right, if we remember back to some of our previous labs, we do enable here, and where there's just a pound symbol, we can do a show run, okay? That will give us all of our information that we need, okay? So here we need to be able to fill in that information. On R1, you've got 2 interfaces configured. You've got G00 here, okay, which is IP address 172.16.31.1, 255.255.255.0. We've got interface G01, which is IP address 192.168.0.2, subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Now, if we look and kind of hover our mouse over it, G00 is right here connected to switch 1, and G01 is right here connected to S2. Okay, those 2 ports are actually called the default gateway, just for future reference for each one of those networks. The default gateway is very important. It's kind of like your network's way out. So here for PC 1 through 4, this address here on G00, which is 172.16.31.1, it will be the default gateway for everything down here, everything down here connected, all right, because everything has to funnel through this one port on this router, which is G00. Okay, same thing over here, all right, G01 would kind of be the default gateway if S2 was coming that direction. So you want to write these down or just kind of keep this window open. They kind of give you a little chart over here in your directions where you want to write some of this down, because we're kind of going to replicate that over here with our new device, but I'm just going to keep it open right here. We can reference it in a moment. All right, so it says click MLSW1, which is the name of your layer 3 switch, and we're going to click on the CLI tab. All right, enter interface configuration mode. Okay, so we're going to go to the enable, config T, and it says enter in configuration mode for Gigabit Ethernet 01. So remember to do that, we do interface G01. You could type out the whole entire thing if you wanted to. and you notice it'll say config-if. Okay, to configure the IP, or sorry, the first thing we need to do is it says change the port to routing mode by entering the no switch port command. Now, you don't have to necessarily memorize that specific part, but we'll get to that in later classes actually when we're configuring more switch ports and everything. But here we're going to do no switch port. Okay, and then it says configure the IP address to be the same as the address for R1's Gigabit 01. Okay, so if I pull that back up for R1 over here, okay, we're looking for G01. So this information here is what I want to enter in over here on my switch. So I'm going to do IP add 192.168.0.2 255.255.255.0. Hit enter. All right, and I want to do no shut just to make sure it's changed to that it's on. Now we don't have it cabled yet, so it will not go fully online. Okay, but we'll cable it in a moment. Next in our direction, it says to enter interface configuration mode for interface VLAN 1. Okay, so we're going to exit out this one, interface VLAN 1. We hit enter, and it wants us to enter R1's Gigabit 00 IP address information here. So we do IP add 172.16.31.1 and we're going to issue the no shut command to make sure that is up. Now remember, VLAN 1 is a virtual interface, so there's no cabling needed for that particular one. Okay. Also here, you notice it says just switch. All right, just some review. Okay, you don't have to do it for this lab. Remember, you can change the host name of it as well with the host name command and change it to MLSW1. And then lastly, we want to save our configurations. So remember, we do copy, run, start, hit enter twice, and that saves our configuration for us. Okay, so we've got everything configured correctly. Now let's actually start breaking some of the connections and cabling the network and see kind of what our before and after picture looks like. So it wants you to click an empty area of the screen to unselect all of your devices, so just click anywhere in the white space, and then use the delete tool to remove all connections or simply delete R1, S1, and S2. So we're actually deleting all three of those devices. So we click the red X over here, and we're going to delete S1 altogether, R1 altogether, and S2 altogether. Okay, and then we want to re-click up here. Don't keep the X because that will actually delete your devices. Don't do that. So you want to click on the selector up here first. Okay, and then go down here and we want to select the appropriate cables to complete the following. We're connecting MLSW1's G01 interface to the Edge router's Gigabit Ethernet 00 interface. All right, so we want to grab a cable down here. We click on connections, and then we're going to use a copper straight through cable to connect a router to a switch since they are different devices. And we're connecting the Edge router's G00 port to MLSW1's layer 3 switch Gigabit Ethernet 01 port. Okay, and you'll see it come online. We've already configured that, remember, with the no shutdown command. So if you still see that red, then you'll want to make sure you go back in on MLSW1 and issue the no shut command on G01. Also, make sure you've already configured G01 with the correct IP addressing information. Okay. Now we're going to connect each end device. Oh, sorry. We're going to connect each end device. So we grab a copper straight through cable again, and we're going to connect PC1's fast Ethernet 0 to any of these. You could choose any fast Ethernet port. I'm just going to go in order. So FA01, rinse and repeat that for PC2. I'm going to go to FA02, same thing for PC3 to FA03, and same thing for PC4 to FA04. And we want to use copper straight through for all of those from the fast Ethernet port of the PC to any fast Ethernet port on the switch. You don't have to use the same ones I did as far as the switch end. You could use any 1 through 24, but I just went in order. And you'll slowly see them come online. All right, so what happens here is PC1, when you send something over the network or use this ping over here, it's going to send it to MLSW1. The VLAN1 configuration that we did is actually going to act like the default gateway. Okay, so it's going to send it there, and then it's going to send it on to the edge router, and then usually an edge router is usually at the edge of your physical network, so then it sends it out to the rest of the world. Okay, and that's how it'll operate for PC1 through 4. Okay, so you want to just make sure that all of these can actually ping this end device up here. You may have to refire it a couple times until it gets successful. Now, if you refire it, you know, maybe more than 4 or 5 times and it's still not working, then you want to make sure that you go back and look at what you configure. Okay, because it should work. If you just double click the red button there, it'll refire it. Okay, and you do have to kind of expand this. A lot of times it is closed. All right, and you can use the envelope from PC to the edge router. But you should see all successful here, and you should have 100 out of 100 at this point in the lab. So let me know if you have any questions on this one. Again, this was covering 5.3.3.5, and you see that you replaced 3 devices, switch 1, switch 2, and the router, all with just one layer 3 switch. The only disadvantage is layer 3 switches are much more expensive, but they will operate like a switch at layer 2, which is concerned with MAC addressing, and a router at layer 3, which is concerned with IP addressing and routing packets from place to place.